Hello, everyone. This is the Progressive Mind Show. My name is Senna, aka Alinko. We are coming your way via Facebook, YouTube. Our channels are on YouTube is the Progressive Mind Show. Also on Facebook, the Progressive Mind Show. Today is April 11th, 2023. We're glad to be coming your way, and pardon us for the slight start in today's show. But it's going to be another interesting conversation regarding the diaspora. And I think we're having a little bit of a glitch. So please bear with us as we go through today's program. I have here with my guest, Malik. Malik Youssef is here with me, and Jim. Brothers, welcome to the show this evening.
Yeah, what's going on?
Thank you, brother. You're welcome. Jim, what up?
Yeah, what's going on? Man, I'm all right. How you feeling?
Blessed.
Okay.
Good to be here with you.
Brother Malik is a 5-time Grammy and Emmy Award.
No. 5-time Emmy and 8-time Grammy, brother. Come on, man.
Okay, 5-time Emmy and 8-time.
Come on, man. 8-time Grammy. Come on, get to me. Let's go.
All right, my brother. Thank you so much for the correction. 5-time Emmy and 8-time Grammy Awards winner. And he's also a philanthropist and entrepreneur, businessman. He's very involved in community work, brother. Brother Malik, once again, we really appreciate you making time to be on the show this evening.
Yes, sir. My pleasure.
All right, and next on the bill is brother whom I met a while ago. Jim Webb is the president of True Delta LLC. He's done business in Nigeria, also very versatile when it comes to community issues. My brother Jim, you're welcome to the show as well.
Man, I appreciate you, man, for having me.
Thank you. So before we continue with this conversation, I would like to play the reason why we're here. So if you have followed the Progressive Mind Show for a while, one thing that we associate our platform with is bridging the gap, understanding that as a people, as Black people, we have come a long way. Our journey is not the same as everybody else. We have a very unique story. We have been disconnected and separated over decades, over centuries, and so has become our cultures. They have become unique. And so when we engage each other in the diaspora, especially, sometimes we don't seem to speak the same language because, of course, we have different languages. And even though the culture is the same, it has become very unique and in its own way. As a result, these types of decorum has been going on. Caribbeans and Africans, African Americans. And we, apart from having this show, having this conversation on this platform, we also have created events to promote or to extend the conversation in our communities. And that is what we've come to be known for. Now, over the past few weeks, I did a show here responding to Steve Harvey, who had gone to, of course, he's been to Ghana and a couple of African countries. And he was speaking on, I think, Pan-African podcast. And he had made his comments about how great African people are on the continent and how loving they were and to him when he was in Africa and all of that. And so I came here and I responded. And then not too long ago, Burna Boy also made his comment about when he was asked about African Americans. And I would like us to play that video so that we can discuss it. And I think
himself, the African giant Burna Boy, and I want to ask you, why is it important that the diaspora come home?
You know why? Okay, let's use America for example, right? Because there's we can use anyway.
Yeah.
But let's just use America, right? Why do you think the Chinese American has their respect, and they don't go through the things that African Americans go through? No, even though they might go through their struggles, I'm not taking anything away from them. But they don't go through what the African American goes through. You know why? Because the Chinese American has a base. He actually knows where he's from in China.
Right. And they have support from the Chinese government.
You understand? Like the Italian American.
They have Italy.
They know where their grandparents.
Okay.
I'm here with a man himself, the African giant Burna Boy, and I want to ask you, why is it important that the diaspora come home?
You know why? Okay, let's use America for example, right? Because we can use anyway.
Yeah.
But let's just use America, right? Why do you think the Chinese American, has their respect, and they don't go through the things that African Americans go through? Even though they might go through their struggles, I'm not taking anything away from them, but they don't go through what the African American goes through. You know why? Because the Chinese American has a base. He actually knows where he's from in China.
Right. And they have support from the Chinese government.
You understand? Like the Italian American.
They have Italy.
They know where their grandparents.
Okay. So I think the basics has been covered, and this is what I want us to touch on. So Burna Boy said that the African Americans perhaps do not have, do not know their culture, do not know their roots, and the Chinese and the Italians do know their base. They have a base and they know it, and that's why they're now struggling. See, that right there, for me as an African, and Oga, say this one, be say na fight now. Oga, Burna Boy. Now waiting you talk where I won't respond. Be say you come do something where them no do before, but how you talk the thing where I don't agree with them, so I won't respond. Okay, so that right there, as an African, is what I see a problem with. Now, it is not to say that Africans are bad people, or Africans necessarily have a negative feeling or connotation, or do not really like African Americans. But the issue that we have been talking about, the issue that has been in existence within the diaspora or within Black people, is the lack of knowledge of ourselves, is the lack of understanding of where we are, where we come from, and how we are all connected. And I'm speaking from the African perspective, because for Burna Boy to have said that African Americans don't have a base that they can connect with, which is why they're going through what they're going through, speaks volumes of a lot of Africans and how we think and feel about each other, especially African Americans. Again, not in a demeaning way, but I think that it's because of this lack of understanding or lack of education. Because if Burna Boy knows better, or probably takes time to look deeper into the struggles of Black people in America, he probably will realize that it is not because African Americans don't have a base in Africa or don't know their base. There are a lot of reasons. There are a lot of issues. Talk about race, talk about economic disparities. There are a lot of things that is contributing to the African American struggle. You see, when Africans go out and when we travel outside the country, we go to, we go everywhere. There is Europe, there is Asia, there is of course, the United States. The story of the Africans in Africa or in Europe is not the same as the story of Africans here in America. Let me explain. The struggles that Africans have to go through in Europe and in Asia, they don't have to necessarily go through that here in America, because African Americans have had to deal and fight and prepare the way for us, so that whatever struggle there is, we just have to come here and ride the tide. In the same now, let me to go back to what Burna Boy said about African Americans. When Steve Harvey, which is the tape that I spoke about, that I responded to last week, a week or two ago, when Steve Harvey was talking about Africans, he loudly expressed how great and loving Africans are. He actually said that. He said, we stole from Burna Boy. Burna Boy didn't steal from us. Whatever he meant that to be, whatever he was meaning that, whatever he was connecting that to, I don't know. But you can sense the feeling of connection and love, regardless of whether Steve Harvey knows everything about Africa or Africans. He didn't care. At that point, he was selling a message of connectivity and bridging the gap. He actually said, I'm trying to bridge the gap. So my point is, and guess what? Steve Harvey, I think, was very, very humble in that remark that he made. Because guess what? Steve Harvey, now we're talking about two people here, two very giants, two giants of the diaspora community, both African and African Americans. Steve Harvey is by far richer, by far famous, by far popular than Burna Boy, in my estimation. Steve Harvey, of course, has more accomplishment than Burna Boy, in my estimation. Steve Harvey obviously is much older, but Steve Harvey is saying, I stole from Burna Boy. Of course, not literally, but we all know what he meant. He was humble to say, look, forget about whatever the differences are. We as African Americans have to connect with African Americans. But when the tables was turned and Burna Boy had to respond to same scenario, he said African Americans don't know their culture, and compared it to Italian Americans and Asian Americans. This is why it's very important that in the 21st century, the most important conversation that Africans and African Americans or Black people need to be having is our story. We have to sit down and have this roundtable conversations so that we are not misinformed, or so that we are closing that gap of ourselves, of our history, because it's a huge gap, obviously, of our connectivity in our history, which is why statements like that to be made. Because I feel that in the next few days, few months to come, or few weeks to come, Burna Boy is going to read more. He's going to learn more about what his statement, because I'm sure he's getting all kinds of responses, and he's going to start understanding that it is not the reason for the plight of African Americans. It's not because they don't have a base. They know where they're from. A lot of them. As a matter of fact, how do we as Africans, right, say that African Americans, or can make statements like African Americans don't know their base, or they don't have a base, the reason why they are struggling, without understanding and recollecting that African Americans didn't come to America. A lot of them, those who claim they were here before slavery and all of that, that's fine. But we know that the African Americans that came here through transatlantic slavery did not voluntarily come to Americas. So if a people came here involuntarily and have to endure everything they had to endure, and now they built a country and a system that we Africans and everybody come here to benefit off of, how do you first of all say they don't have a culture? Because there's not a people on this planet who you can say do not have a culture. Because if you look at the definition of culture, it's basically a way of life, people's way of life. Whatever you create for yourself, whatever you make for yourself, is your culture. So we cannot say that they don't have a culture, but we have to understand that, yes, because they have the African heritage, a lot of them, because of this history, have not yet connected. So we can't necessarily make this statement. We can hold these against them. And I hear this in a lot of conversations with my African friends. I was just having one with a doctor friend of mine. Who is insinuating that African Americans have to go home? They have to go in Africa and look up their culture and connect to their culture. Yes, that's fine. But we cannot say it in a way that may sound like we're talking down at them or we're demeaning what they already have. Because understand that pop culture has affected everybody around this globe. And including Africans. I say it all the time on my show that pop culture, which is African Americans created culture, their own culture. When you go to Africa, there is no musician, there's no artist, there's no the 95 or 99% of artists across the globe, including Africa, either replicates the swag and the lyrics and the movement of African Americans. The whole pop culture has engulfed African youth, including Burna Boy. When Burna Boy go on stage, yes, we know how he dresses, but if you look at his swag on a regular basis and you look at the Wizkids, look at Davido and all these guys, they all swag like African Americans. So what I'm saying is that if they don't have a culture, why do we copy their style? Why do we do things the way they do? Why do we rap the way they, so they do have a culture. And I think that for a lot of these great guys, from Thames to P Square to Burna Boy himself to Wizkid, their careers, their music, I believe, have gotten to this point, have gone global as a result of African Americans, hip hop stars helping them one way or the other. There is no way that Afrobeat would be so popular in America now without the influence or the assistance of African Americans who've already created a very congenial scene. This is a fertile ground for hip hop or for music. The United States, pop culture, which was created by African Americans. So first of all, we cannot insinuate that they don't have a culture. And secondly, we can't say, go to Africa and find out your culture, and not understanding the predicament and the circumstances that led them here in the first place. In any case, when we talk about bridging the gap, in any case, when we talk about Black people connecting, I think that on record, African Americans have tried and are still going to Africa, not only to do business, most of the time to learn and study about our culture. The same people that sometimes we insinuate by our comments that they don't perhaps have a culture or know their culture or don't have a base because they're not from Africa or they're not going to Africa enough. The same people, based off their journey here, have created leaders, have given world leaders who have contributed to humanity and world peace. They have also helped in the struggle of Africans on the continent of Africa. When it comes to South Africa's struggle for apartheid, we know of the work that Reverend Jesse Jackson Dems did. These are people who came here, not through their fault, but at the end of the day, they had to fight what they had to fight here on arrival until date. And they still have to go to Africa and help us. Didn't Kwame Nkrumah invite Martin Luther King to Ghana's Independence Day celebration? Do we know why? Because Kwame Nkrumah got inspiration from Martin Luther King. Didn't W.E. Du Bois actually he died? He lived and died in Ghana, and he's not African. He was an enslaved African American who had to go back to help the struggle of Africans. Liberia as a country was founded by African Americans. Heck, African Americans have done and still doing, and I always say on here that when you come to businesses, local businesses in the diaspora, within Black communities, right, festivals, we know who like when you come to African stores, African dress, African clothing stores, African restaurants, and African festivals, how many of Africans patronize these things that we sell here by ourselves? It is African Americans on a larger scale that have helped contribute and supported us. They support us all the time, just like they support everybody else. But they feel they are connected with us. They show the connection. They show love by patronizing our businesses, patronizing our festivals, coming to our events, and supporting us in any way. go to a lot of African organizations and look at the people who are behind the board, the administration, especially a lot of African organizations, African Caribbean organizations in the United States, in the diaspora. My point is, it is unfortunate that Burna Boy make that comment. A lot of people say, oh, there's nothing wrong with it. But as an African, I can see it, because it's the same as this comment right here. And after this, I'll go to my panel. I know they have been patiently waiting. I'm going to go to Malik and Jim to respond quickly. But there is this comment right here that I had responded to a couple years ago, and I think that it's not here. I may not see it. Okay, so I will leave that. I'll leave that alone. But the point I was trying to make is, here is what Steve Harvey said about Africans.
They are the kindest, most sincere people I've ever been around, ever. Forget everything you've ever heard. After you go to Africa, you got to go to Ghana first, then you need to go to Botswana, because you need to see Botswana is the second richest diamond producer nation in the world. Them black people over there got something. And then you got to go to Johannesburg. That's what you got. You got to do that jump right there. Once you see that, you'll understand who we are. Them Africans ain't stole nothing from us. They talk about Burna Boy stole this. No, we stole from Burna Boy. Them Africans is us, man. They the beat, they the rhythm, they the soul, they the hard work. We get our courage from them. When you see them people, they look just like your family.
So he said, when you see Africans that look just like your family, he's talking to African Americans. He says he wants to bridge the gap. My challenge, my thing to Africans is that let's match the energy that Steve Harvey is showing. Let's not sit down and say they don't have this, they don't have this. This is why their problem is because they're not connected to Africa enough, or they're not going to Africa enough. Let's show that same energy. And if Burna Boy can use his stage, Wizkid, and Temps, these guys who have been supported hugely by African American stars and engineers and producers and directors, and have helped them go this global with their music, then I think it's fair that they can also go on live TV or use their stage to say, African Americans are us, because it's fair. Steve Harvey is saying that Africans are us, are them, African Americans. It's also fair that we Africans say it's just fair. Is morally right. If we are trying to bridge the gap, then this is a fair conversation to have. That if one is stretching out, the other has to also stretch out. Our reconciliation and our coming together cannot be a one-way streak. That you come home, you have to go home, you have to come home, you have to. No, yes, we encourage you to check your heritage out, but we Africans also have to check you out. We have to learn your history. We don't only have to come to America and make money and go back to Africa and build homes and buy houses and buy cars, but we also have to come here and learn the story and the predicament and the history of African Americans, their contribution to the world, their contribution to America, their contribution to how we all thrive here. If we don't know, not all African Americans act like they don't know their culture or act without their culture. If you look at the Gala people, if you read about the Gala people on the south, in the south of America, you understand that a lot of Africans that came here, a lot of black people have maintained and kept and held on to their culture, the African culture that we are ascribing them to go get, which is a good thing. Not all of them lost it. Even though it was forcefully taken away from them, a lot of them held on to it. We are blessed that as Africans on the continent, we didn't have anybody stretching us and pulling the culture out of us. On that note, let me go to my brothers on the platform today. Brother Malik and Jim, I know, thanks for your indulgence. Brother Malik, please go ahead if you want to respond to this or have any comments.
Yeah, just a couple comments because I don't want to be long-winded about this, but there's a couple things I want to address. First, I want to shout out Burna my man Burna, and Wiz, you know, and Thames. I'm gonna be working with her soon on her project. I don't think Burner used the correct words. I don't think he articulated it. I think it was backstage. Let's look at the context. He's backstage. Shaka that's my boy Shaka, was talking to him. It's his quick, dirty answer, quick response, first brain response was, we need to reconnect, because it leaves us vulnerable. And Vic Mensa did a TED talk about this, about us lacking a skeleton. Chinese foundation has a skeleton. Does have a skeleton. Right? So therefore they have a much on muscle, but without having the direct connection to our resources that we hold and grow.
Brother Malik, we can barely hear you. I think the line is breaking up. Can you hear us now? Okay. We're having issues with this feed. Jim, can you come in?
Yeah, I mean, when I heard the comments, like just trying to parse them, I always default to like somebody being positive as they make comments. I don't automatically assume that, you know, that people have ill intent, and I don't think that Burna had ill intent, but was he ill informed? Absolutely, right. And so, like, one of the comments he was saying is like, "Oh yeah, well, you know, you got to know where your grandparents from." I know where my grandparents from. They from Mississippi. You know what I'm saying, and been from Mississippi from a long time, right? And they moved to Chicago to escape terrorism, right? So like our families have been here. Like my family traces back to the 1600s here in this country, right? Now before that, we all know that we Africans. I mean, you can look at that and see that, but like as it pertains to like what it is, our frame of reference is, it is mostly the American South. You had mentioned the Gullah Geechee people, right? Well, those are two separate type of people, but I don't want to get into that. For a lot of people that stay in Chicago, they frame of reference is Mississippi, Tennessee, Louisiana, and Arkansas. And so like when our parents or grandparents or great grandparents moved up here, they were moving not just to look for a better life, but really to escape a real wicked terrorism in the land that we had settled in. And so like, and we settled like it wasn't voluntary. We just made the best life that we could. And so like those stories that we got from our ancestors, like this, it's not like far out of our memory what's been going on. And the truth of the matter is that at least when you're talking about the West, because you got a whole bunch of black folks that are in the Western Hemisphere. We some of the only folks, and we like the largest set of folks outside of Brazil, but you still got Bahia, which is a black state. We don't have a black state because we've been driven out of what would be our land, right? And so like as we continue to exercise this right of self-determination to determine like who we are as people, I think we deserve, you know, the respect and not be compared to like people who actually got like countries with resources, right? Like Chinese people or Italian people, because they came over just like anybody that moves over to this country voluntarily as a settler colonialist. This is a settler colonialist state, right? So people move over here so that they can capitalize on whatever environment is here. Our ancestors were not that. We just made the best situation that we could, and we are continuing to do that for anybody that wants to move here. So like to opine on what it is that we got going on, I think it's really like unfair, you know. That's just like one side of it. On the other side, I think that that the line between just the West period. When I say the West, I'm talking about Bahia, I'm talking about Colombia, I'm talking about Panama, I'm talking about Jamaica, Haiti. here, right? We need you like we need to have those lines open over in Africa, right? And so like how are West African and Central African countries receiving our people as we seek to like create these lines of like of familiarhood, right? Whether it's like along money lines, whether it's along cultural lines or whatever. And are we being accepted? Now I know for a fact, like when I run into people in the streets in West Africa, it's all love. You know what I'm saying? Like, period. However, you know what I'm saying? Like, I think there's a lot of misconceptions, and one of them being in and around money. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, we don't like just because our dollar might trade a little bit, you know what I'm saying, higher in some economies, don't mean that we coming over there rich and we just had some type of like some great upbringing over here. So like that's like from when I be talking to my own friends, and I don't want to be long-winded, so I'm gonna wrap it up. But I think that the leaders of African countries, and when I say that West African countries in particular, because that's where our ancestry is originally from, need to be a lot more deliberate in how they are engaging African Americans and Afro Caribbeans.
Mm. Thank you, brother. Really appreciate that submission. Brother Malik, I think we can hear you now.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, great.
Okay, beautiful. Yeah, beautiful, Jim, what you were saying, and very astute observations on the subject. And the subject is vast, right? It's deep. There's a lot of pain involved because separation, untimely separation or unwanted separation brings pain. We call it being ripped or torn, or cut, removed. These kind of words is what happened to us, and our connection to the motherland for all people, but especially for people that look like us, right? Mm-hmm. So Burna, as Jim stated, I'll just veggie tail on what he's saying. Just veggie back on that. Just there's no way that in that small encounter with Shaka, that's my boy, could Burna, who is my brother too, really give a dissertation. That was probably the wrong arena to get into a subject that polarizing, or that carries so much gravity, so much weight, and so much uncomfortability and pain for our people, right? Because it's hard to figure out, and racism is hard to unravel because it's dastardly, it's done dastardly, and it's made for you not to have the bandwidth to unravel it. It's designed for that. It's designed to be complicated, not just complex, but complicated. From its root to from its creation to its root to its application. It's very confusing, right? And you just don't have enough time. The think tanks aren't big enough to address this. So we wind up having these small, sound bites. Steve Harvey, what seems to be on one side and Burna on the other side is not the same side. I think Burna's vibration was one of, I long for my connection with my people. I long to be accepted. I long to accept us as a group, to be on the same team for once. Because traditionally, African Americans, except for a small satellite groups, haven't been on the same team. So that's one of the issues that Burna's trying to, in a small, again, just a very quick sample, trying to address. I also think that Vic Mensa talked about this, about if the foundation of a human body is the skeleton, is the bones, right? If that's the foundation of the human body.
Yeah.
Then, we don't have it. We're operating with an exoskeleton of sorts, and that makes us more cumbersome, more bulky. When you have an inner skeleton, you can scale up, and you can, there's a million things you can do. You can move autonomously. And we had to create a foundation here, as you spoke about culture and how axiology works and how we come to know ourselves. We came to know ourselves through, lack of, chitterlings as part of African American culture, because we had the lack of hog marks, pig feet. All these things are culturalistically African American, not necessarily healthy, but forced to be this way. We forged an understanding of ourselves and a propagation of ourselves from the lack. So understand that first, right? And then, like Vic Mensa did in his TED talk, he said, we don't have a skeleton. The Chinese people, they have a skeleton, even though it had been, a lot of it had been abused and some tempered away, but it still was evident foundational aspect, perhaps maybe even a soul, right? Our soul had to be restructured, had to be fragmented and restructured. The Italian, so on and so forth. And also too, America, when you come over to America, they not only ask you, but they encourage you to give up your gods. If you were Norwegian and you came to America, you took off and they would make fun of you. And if you look at popular culture, you have the Viking hat on walking through New York City, and everybody's laughing at you until your cousin who loves you takes you into a soutier and has the soutier fit you a custom suit. Then you come out and everybody's like, hey, yeah, buddy. Same thing with the Germans. If you had on their traditional wear with the hat and the shorts and the culottes, the people laugh at you. Oh, is this television now? No, you're doing it wrong. Take you in there and you give up your gods. The German god pantheon got given up. The Norwegian god, where we put Thor in cartoons, that's not the same though. The Italian gods got given up. The Greek gods, everybody had to assimilate into America, but you could because your skin looked like what the gods they wanted you to serve. You understand? So you're encouraged to give up. We say you give up your gods. We're saying give up your magic and take this. And your reward for taking this honed down version of magic is whiteness, the white wage. We couldn't receive the white wage because we're not white. We are this. We are this soil. We are this right here. So they's like, even if you give up your gods, you still don't get the wage. So what Burna is saying, y'all didn't get nothing for it. Come back here. That's what he wants to say. That's what his vibration is telling me. You feel me? So Steve Harvey should be platforming, in my opinion. Him getting us saying these things is cool, but he should be platforming and then pillaring. Take 50 kids. Do a Steve. Don't even pay for it yourself, Steve Harvey. Say, hey, I got 50 kids I'm taking to Africa for 12 weeks. We're gonna match with these, 50 families in these parts of Africa. That's how you do it. Just getting up there saying stuff, that's lip service. We had that a lot. And I understand it's easier to do that. It makes more sense to do that. It's less calories, it's less work. Saying, hey, you do the work, people. But we do deal with people that's already underrepresented in every position in America, except for the nightly news when it comes to criminalization. So we need some guides. We need Steve Harvey to step in. And we need me to step in, and I do. I go to Africa all the time. Y'all know I'm always in Ghana. I'm always in Nigeria. I'm in Benin. I know the presidents. You know what I'm saying? So I'm out there. I can be doing more, and I will be doing more. But we need a collective. So when we say stuff like, go back home, where's home?
Yeah.
People are the home. So we need to connect with somebody, and that becomes immediately home, because houses can be torn down and rebuilt. Lands can be shifted. Geographical locations can be changed. But when you connect with a person in the motherland, being from the diaspora, that's home for you.
Okay.
And that's what we need to understand.
Malik, brother, great point, and I love it. You said if you connect with a person from the motherland, that's a great thing. Don't you? And you said you've gone to Ghana. When you go, let me ask this: if you connect with a person on the motherland, it's a good thing. So who should be making the connection, or at least who should be doing? How should that connection happen?
Bridge building infrastructure.
Okay. Now, great bridge building infrastructure. Again, somebody has to initiate it.
Yes, of course. So when people work very well, and we've learned this, people work well when they're directed. So, and it takes a little direction is media, right? Direction is media. It's information. It's media. So when we say the media says, hey, check it out. We have a program if you want to go to Ghana, we have 20 families that want to connect with Americans. That want to connect with African Americans. We have 20 families ready to receive you. And this is your new family.
And who should initiate that?
It can be initiated from either side, but
it should be initiated from the Africans. So, Brother Malik, I didn't mean to interrupt, but you see, I hear this a lot, Jim and brother. This is the conversation that I hear from. I know Sister. I've been known Sister Africa for 6 years. Raven, all these guys. That is you show that love. You come from a place where of reconciliation. A lot of you, of course, not everybody feel this, is with this vibration, but you show this type of positive attitude of connection. And I've been asking for decades until Ghana declared the year of return in 2019. Where were African leaders? Who would have said, or who should have said decades or centuries ago to say, our brethren who are in the Americas, we know you left us centuries ago, but now we open up our countries, like you said, we're giving you this land, and we are inviting, if you all can come home, we are going to give you this land so you can be part of our people, you can be part of the developing of the land, the minerals, the natural resources, the people, and all of that. How about Africans taking that initiative? African leaders are now doing that. Thank God Nana, the president of Ghana, saw this vision to do this in 2019. The issue here is that a lot of African, by now, I would have thought that a lot of African presidents would have taken that lead. I would have thought that a lot of African traditional leaders or kings and queens would have taken that initiative to say, okay, you know what? Yes, it's about time. Let's offer them the land. Let's invite them back home. I'm waiting for Nigeria to do that because Nigeria is Nigeria. Nigeria is a huge country with a lot of resources, with a lot of land. Actually, one billionaire in Nigeria can sponsor about 1,000 African Americans to say, hey, come home. We know they have a lot of money. We know that we have we know Nigeria now. So what I'm saying is that that is the initiative. And so it's humbling to hear and to say that people like you and Steve initiating this, because the honest truth is that it's not with you. It's not with the African American or the Caribbean to initiate a hand of reconciliation. Because again, the point is, you did not leave Africa on your own. How about us? I came here voluntarily. All the doctors and engineers within the Nigerian and the Ghanaian community and all the PhDs, we came here voluntarily. But guess what? We're not going back. The most we spend in Ghana is maybe 10 or 2 weeks or 1 month, and we come back here. This is our home now. And so when we are asking our brethren to connect back or go back to their culture, we have to make room for them. In as much as they want to connect, we have to connect. And I'm speaking to my brethren in the African community. And the Burna Boy knows, if he hears what I'm saying, he knows what I'm talking about. And I'm not saying that Burna Boy, of course, dislikes African Americans or have a thing against them, but the mentality, what he expressed, is what I hear from a lot of Africans almost all the time. That is why I make the comment that I'm making. That is why I feel like there is a mentality, there is this sense of Africans thinking, a lot of Africans looking at African Americans with that type of sentiment that Burna Boy expressed. Even if I know he didn't mean negative or he didn't mean it in a bad way, but we have a certain understanding which influences our communication. We have a certain understanding which influences our attitude towards our own brethren who have been supportive of us and still very supportive and show love to us. That is my point. I know, Malik, I know you have like maybe 10 more minutes to go. Please let us know if it's time for you so you can get us your last words. But Jim, I know you've been listening in, or Malik, if you want to, if you have anything else to add to it, please go ahead.
Go ahead, Jim.
Well, no, you got the flow, bro. You ain't gonna be here that much longer.
Yeah.
Yeah. Everything you just said, Sina, is accurate. And I definitely understand the velocity of your words. The swift cadence in which you use shows that this is a passionate thing for you. And I think it is passionate for all of us, but you have a particular wherewithal on how to direct it. A lot of people don't know where to start. And I think this is one of the biggest issues. And you know that you have a failed start if you don't know how to start. That's anything, And so people want to do this, but we have to get to the spirit of making it easy for our people to do. It's already hard for everybody. Life is hard for everybody, right? Nothing's easy except for doing nothing. That gets increasingly more difficult as you do it, you know. So, but the way that we can create, and I often look back at this television show I looked at when I was a kid called The Wiz, and they said follow the yellow brick road. Because other than that, they would have never made it to Oz. Even though Yellow Brick Road was right there, until somebody gave the proper instructions and said, this is the way to go. You're going to Oz, Yellow Brick Road. Because they could have accidentally been on the pink brick road and never got to Oz, you know, or the blue brick road that led the other direction. You feel me? So, on my mama, I really believe what you're saying is correct. But there has to be a coalition, and I think that you are in the perfect position. You are perched in the perfect position to be able to look at this from an objective standpoint, from all standpoints, because you're here on the ground in Chicago with it.
Yeah.
Then you're from Ghana, so you have that viewpoint. You're a businessman and a successful one at that, and you understand the need.
Exactly.
Now, all we have to do is put together the methodology, and then we have a beautiful thing. I mean, that was Vincent just calling me right there. He's back in America. They did the Black Star Alliance with him and Chance in Ghana. You know, I mean, this is stuff that I'm not saying I'm the impetus, but I'm like, yo, everybody got to get to Africa. I got people. Where y'all want? You want to go to Kumasi? I got you. Where do you want to go? I got you. So this is how I'm working through my thing, and it needs to be bigger. I need to magnify it, and I appreciate having me on this conversation. I'm currently in the studio working, but this is very important to do this.
Thank you so much. I know you have a few more minutes.
Yeah.
What are you currently?
Jim is, you know, Jim is right. He says he could trace back his grandparents, right? That's important. Burna doesn't understand that African Americans have that. So he just doesn't know, you know?
Exactly.
And that's why we got to be patient with our people, man.
Yep.
We got to be patient with our folks, bro.
We got to be patient with ourselves.
Yes.
And we have to deliberately bridge that gap, that which was not taught us about ourselves and our history and our people.
Come on.
I mean, we cannot be this informed and educated and in the 21st century and in America with all this type of information and still have this grave gap. It is, we have achieved a lot. We are all successful. Burna Boy is off the roof when it comes to success. You know, you guys, you know, and a lot of my African friends, they don't even have to be celebrities. They're just very successful by what they do in America. And America has been a blessing. This land has blessed us a lot as Africans who have come here. And so one thing that I think that Africans, we need to work on a lot is that educational gap, that which causes us to misunderstand, because there is a misunderstanding. And nobody's going to teach us. Nobody's going to put us in a room and teach us. If we're not doing this,
can I hop in there real quick?
Go ahead, Malik.
All right. So
okay, Jim.
Button. So one of the things that you mentioned, Cena, right? Like I can remember the first time that I went to Africa, right? And I think it's important that like all African Americans get over to Africa not just to see like the one thing that we need to see, which is Black people could do it themselves, right? So like everything that we've ever tried to build here on our own has been stripped from us. You know what I'm saying? Like we can't like we build towns, you know what I'm saying? Whether it's the Exoduster or the homesteader movements, they burn down. White folks, they jealous in the next town. Oh, that's an uppity nigga. You know what I'm saying? So like you like sit like and get the hanging or running people fathers over with trains and stuff, right? And so like when the first time I went to Africa, I was able to see like buildings, entire cities being built by Black hands, right? And it let me know when I came back, it's like, oh, we could do this ourselves. We don't, you know what I'm saying? Like we don't need nobody else to be able to do this, right? And so like I was able to come back, and I like right around that time I like called my back then I had like a painting company. When I came back, I renamed my company Nation Builders, right? And that's what we do, man. Like we build the environment around us. Right now, what we doing on the west side of Chicago, we building something called the Sankofa Wellness Village. Now we know that Sankofa is really what Burna Boy was talking about, right? Being able to look back to be able to move forward. However, like the spirit of the village that we're building with our partners, it's enough room for all us that think the same way. So like anybody who believes in liberation of Black folks worldwide, come on over and come help us. What we doing? We building it right in K-Town, right in Madison, Pulaski. Plug in.
Awesome. That's a powerful statement. I truly appreciate you sharing it, Brother Malik. I know. Let me know when you have to run, but if you can tell us exactly some of the businesses you were doing or some of the projects you were doing in Africa, and of course, which African country?
I was in Nigeria and Benin. Also, what we did in Ghana with Vic. So, right, West Africa, primarily those larger countries. But I'm also going to be doing stuff in Gabon. I'm also going to be doing stuff in Zaire. So I'm expanding out. And what I'm doing is a cultural gift sharing. And then also an interpersonal relationship stalwart campaign. So I'm doing this thing called LP. Now we know LPs as growing up as long play, like an album. But this is called life planning. So what I get is I get beats from different producers, and I've only done it with 3 young men so far. I'm going to add women into this soon. I'm starting with Black people because that's who I am. So we get to say, hey, let's talk a little bit about your future plans, which a lot of people have, Some people don't. Some people don't have future plans. And it scares them to think about the future. But it's mandatory. Everyone has a past, but some people's past is tumultuous. They don't want to talk about that. Then we talk about the present. And when they understand that the present, the past, and the future are all connected, what they talk about in their life, in the present, they talk about the people in it and how they feel about the people in it. Their children, their brothers, their fathers, their sisters, and this is all recorded on music. And there's a lot of tears. All 3 times we did it, it's been tears. I mean, like snot, it's like purging. And then we say, okay, we're going to choose the people you want to hear this. And so we bring them in and let them hear this. And they hear how they're affecting this person. Now, we've done it with 3 famous people, but this could be done with anybody. And people are like, I feel like I'm not a real thing. I don't feel like a real person. I feel like a thing. Every time my phone rings, somebody's asking me for something. And not that they don't need it. And it's like they don't want to understand a future living like this. Because quality of life has dissipated, even though they've had monetary success. So this is just in the continent with 3 famous rappers, who I won't say the name until we come out with the episodes.
Okay.
3 famous rappers that's like, and you would know these rappers. They are very well known. They're not underground people. And this is unbelievable because they got the cars, they got the houses, their Instagram has millions of followers. They're talking about how hurt they are. So that life plan has to include one of the main things that makes life worth living, joy. How do we get to the joy? Because it's not buying more stuff. I got a lot of stuff, but that's not bringing me joy. I got nice cars. That's not what's bringing me joy. And so what do we do to get joy? And it's always going to be connection, who you're connected with, the level and value of the people that you are connected with. And that is going to expand when we get to go home and have a mother and a sister at home. And let's call home Africa, home for all people. So that's what I'm working on. That's the main thing I'm working on. That's why this was an important conversation for me to have. Because I'm going to do the same thing in the United States of America. But I started there because that's where I was at when I did the project.
Thank you, Brother Malik. I know your time is up. I know you got to run. So thanks for coming on the show and educating us on that side of the conversation that is needed, but and sharing what you're doing in Africa. If there's anything else that you probably left out, please feel free to share as your last comments before you leave us.
That's the main thing, and Jim, I appreciate what you're doing. Sankofa, I love the name of it. It's powerful. The concept is powerful. Fetch it and bring it back. That's it, man. and I'm gonna tap in. You say plug in, I'm plugging in. You know.
Hey, I hope you're buying some land. So I hope you're buying acres of lands.
Oh yeah, no question. we own that. You know, we on that right there.
Super, super important. All right, brother Malik, we will be connecting soon. Thanks for coming. This is not the first time. We hope to have you on again.
Yes, sir. I appreciate it. Jim, keep banging, brother. Sam, thank you for this platform, man. Blessings to y'all, brothers, man. Pardon
Bless
by
up, brother.
got to go to work, though. Sorry about that.
Bless up. Keep doing what you're doing, bro. And Jim, you heard him. Anything else you wanted to add to what you said?
I don't know, man. I think you know, as we continue these conversations, man, and be able to like create a unified Black world, like I think like some things really need to be in place, right? And so like you spoke on something which I think is important, you know, and I really appreciate you for saying it. And so like we really need for Africa to be like allies, true allies. Africa actually has like this land, right? And so we like even and when we be talking about Africa, it's really like a continent, but we got individual countries which are undergirded by ethnic lands. You know what I'm saying? Like because there's two forms of law. I mean, for a lot of people who don't, a lot of Americans that don't know, right? But at the end of the day, there's still with land comes power, right? And so with that being said, the power is in the hands of the leaders, whether it's of particular like villages, particular areas, to be able to reach back and to say, okay, well, come on over and bring your talents here. And like instead of you just saying, oh well, we just want your money, you know what I'm saying? It's like, no, come back home. We realized that there was a repair that needs to be made, and like because the history is what it is, it's on us to be able to reach over into the, you know what I'm saying, to reach over across the water and say, come on back, man, and repair that repair that which had been broken. And so I think that that's important. And part of the reason why it's important because the world moving fast. We see geopolitical like alliances that have been created, and those same geopolitical alliances are moving against us because we not together. So you got the West, which is like Europe. You got the Middle East. You know what I'm saying? And so they moving with their own networks, and then you got Asia Pac that's moving, and they are all moving against us because we, you know what I'm saying, when you like when you trying to basically, you know what I'm saying, it's like you got a hand, right? You know what I'm saying? They can come through all the gaps because we not locked in together, and we are actually in a position to where we are close to water, so we can control trade, right, on both sides of the Atlantic if we wanted to. When you look at America going through all of Americas, right? We are posted up near all the coast. That's where we deepest at, everywhere, right? And then we got the west, we got the whole like coast of the west coast of Africa. Why is it that, you know, like we don't use things like the AFCTA, right? And then be able to start to create a like our own trade federation, right? But it's gonna need to be backed up with something because you can't like you can't make no money if you ain't willing to go to war for that money, right? Because like when you take something from somebody else, they profit from us being apart.
Absolutely. How long have you been going to Africa?
Since like 2017.
Okay, and you've been to? Can you name the number of African countries you've been to?
I've been to Senegal, Ghana, Nigeria, South Africa, Egypt, and I'll be going to Ceylon later on this year because it's the only African country, at least that I know, at this time that offers citizenship to people in the diaspora if you trace back through DNA testing.
Yes, which is, you mean Sierra Leone, right?
That's right.
Great. Ghana is doing something like that, but not similar. You know, you have to apply for the dual citizenship, and some have gotten it. And so I think it's a good initiative. It will be a greater initiative as I said earlier, as we all advocating for, if Benin initiates that, Nigeria initiates that, Senegal initiates that, Cameroon, but mainly Nigeria, because it's a huge country. It speaks, they speak English. Why not? Now, having done this, so do you do businesses in all these countries?
I don't, man. I've actually been on trade missions for some of them. I may be going on a trade mission later on this year. I know I'm headed back to Ghana in October.
Okay.
And so I've done service builds because I'm a constructor, constructing developer. So I've done that in Ghana.
Okay.
Looking to do more.
So the only country you're doing business in right now is Ghana.
That's the one I've done business in.
Okay, and I am assuming that Ghana is the country that you've stayed longer than any other African country you've been.
That's right. But I love Nigeria though. You know
awesome.
What I'm saying? Nigeria is but actually, you know what though? I ain't gonna lie, man. I like Senegal too. It's dope.
So you've tried Nigerian jollof, Ghana jollof, and Senegal.
You gonna get me into that, man. I ain't trying to trying to get that, man.
Okay, we'll
leave originators, man. We gonna stick with the originators.
I understand that. I perfectly get it. Having done business or having traveled to all these African countries, and I'm sure you felt the hospitality that Steve Harvey expressed in his video, right? Is that true for you as well?
Yeah,
you feel the same kind of love from the people when you go?
I do, but you know what I'm saying? Like, it's up. Like we do have to talk about like certain nuances and stuff because like what happens, or at least in my experience in West Africa, is you know what I'm saying, the fact that you know what I'm saying that just because I'm an American, you know what I'm saying, like I'm looked at as like better than some of the people that's there. You know what I'm saying? And that ain't cool. You know what I'm saying? But like from a love standpoint, you know what I'm saying, like if it's true love, like with the, you know what I'm saying, like with the people that I've connected with, you know what I'm saying, and I jam with, then yeah, you know what I'm saying, that's one thing. But like, you know, just from typical passerby, because I've seen that, like how white folks get treated like great over there, you know what I'm saying, better than locals, and I ain't really care for that.
Right. Yes, you're right. This is a situation that we're dealing with. It's been like that for a long time. Foreigners are treated better than fellow Africans. Africans would literally do that. And so yes, you were spot on. Now, when it comes to Africans in the diaspora, when you would you want to say that can you share some of your experiences or your interactions with Africans here? Do you feel the same kind of love, respect, and admiration that you would get when you go to Africa?
So I'm different, right?
Okay.
I'm different, and so like I've always had like a affinity for Africa and Africans. So like I never really saw a difference, right?
Got it.
And because I never saw a difference, I don't think that I was really conscious of any type of like because as I've gotten older, I've noticed like some type of friction, you know what I'm saying, on the outskirts of whatever somebody else got going on. But most of my interactions, especially like with younger folks, like people that's around my age, have been all good. Like older folks though, like, you know what I'm saying, like some of the people that's like in their 50s, 60s or whatever.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I have noticed like, you know what I'm saying, they kind of funny style.
Okay. So I know you're trying to be polite with your words. So I understand what you say, funny style. You see, the truth is that the reality is that we treat each other with this funny style word that you just used. When we come to in Africa, we do that, and as you observed, and this is not me saying it. And when we that same mindset, we bring it here. And so if we're treating other races better than ourselves and people who look like us back in Ghana or in Africa, when we come into America, when we travel outside the continent, we carry that same attitude. And so anybody that we see, especially anybody that we see or encounter, the people that we encounter when we travel outside, if they look like us, yeah, there's some, yeah, we have this attitude. Yeah, okay, yeah, you're fine. But when there are other races that don't look like us, that have lighter skin than us, we tend to have a certain level of reverence,
Mhm.
and our attitude towards our kind and our own is not consistently positive. It's not consistently, I'll say consistently, yeah, like positive is the word. Let me just stay with the word positive to be safe. And this is what we need to encourage. And again, this is not just me saying it. I mean, a lot of Africans who will be listening to this or who are watching this now know this is the truth. And until we change what is in our head about ourselves and the people that look like us, and start having the same respect and reverence for anybody, because if we can love and respect other races, why can't we do same for ourselves and people that look like us?
Mhm.
I mean, this is not, it shouldn't be rocket science. And so, for whatever reason, we tend, and Africans will tell you, a lot Africans actually will tell you, hey, if you do African business, Africans won't support you. Other foreigners will support you. Africans know this. Africans know that Africans don't support African businesses here in the states. If it's a lie, let anybody, in the African who's listening challenge this. We tend not to, we know we don't support our own. Rather, we have other nationalities that come to support us, because anything our kind, we seem to not appreciate and respect it the way we should. And I'm not saying all Africans do this. We do have issues with our communities, and this is one of them. And until we change our mindsets about these things, we literally and be deliberate about it, our society will continue, or our community will continue to be that type of, I don't want to use the word laughing stock, but the rest of the world don't really take us serious. It's in the words of world leaders. Trump have said some things. Putin himself has called Africa a cemetery, because sometimes the way we carry ourselves and the way we treat each other has given people the impetus to look at us and laugh, because they see how we treat each other as people of the same color. And we carry these attitudes, again, when we are in the United States, and we carry it among ourselves, and we treat African Americans the same way. Caribbeans are guilty of this attitude as well. And we need to do something about it as a people, as one people. If we are bridging the gap, this is not a blame game conversation. This is not a blame game platform. Here we encourage the hard truths, the things that we say in our bedrooms about each other. If we're saying in our bedrooms and we're not saying outside, we're killing ourselves. We're shooting ourselves in our own foot. I mean, that's not nobody's problem. We are the ones that are tearing down our own society. We can't blame others all the time. When we have the power to change what we can, we should. We should, and we need each other. And we need blacks who have built America, because they have built America, they know a thing or two about building and developing, and they can be helpful to Africa's development. If everybody else is coming to Africa, we're welcoming them. We're welcoming Indians. We're welcoming Lebanese to come come build our bridges, our schools, our factories. Why can't African Americans do it? But we are tied to Chinese. We are tied to Indians. We're tied to Lebanese, because that has been the trend, and we don't know any better. And until we educate ourselves by those who have traveled outside, and because we've seen better, we've seen and know better now. Until we do this education and have this conversation, this serious, open conversations, we can't keep blaming others for our woes. And so I think that would be where I want us to wrap it up. My brother, I really appreciate it. I don't know if you have any last comments or words to share with us. This has been a great conversation. I wasn't able to open the phone lines. 815-277-5047. Anybody wants to share a comment or two before we close close the discussion this evening. But brother Chosin 1997, he has been on the platform since he actually had some comments. Let's not forget that we were captured by Africans and sold into slavery for spoons and forks, and for mirrors and hard liquor too, and salt sometimes. And so, yes, some wrongs were done, but we have to move on from the wrongs. But there's also in any reconciliation conversation, there is a need to accept what was done, apologize for it, or at least show remorse that that was a bad situation. We did some bad things, but we are here. We are extending um, uh, our hand of love. We're bridging the gap, and I think that would help us. Facts. It's an insult for Africans to make comments about our history like we are not complete without history from 400 years ago. That's a very powerful point. That's a very, very powerful point. And I think you and I don't think you are right, brother. Here, how come Africans are only pandering to black Americans and not Brazilians? That's the truth, and not even Caribbeans. When we see Caribbeans, we don't tell Caribbeans to go to Africa. We don't tell Caribbeans. We don't say oh, they don't have a culture, they have to go to Africa too. They're from Africa, Haiti, Jamaica, Trinidad, all of them. They're from Africa. Belize, they're from Africa too. They didn't come here by themselves. A lot of them. But we don't say that to anybody else. Africans who have traveled to the diaspora. We need to work. We need to do better. It's not the right thing to. And that's a lot of he had a lot of comments here. And I'm sorry if I haven't been able to. Africa needs to heal the wounds that Africa caused. I am very supportive. Yes, I 100% agree. We need to heal those wounds. The part we played in our wounds, in causing wounds, we Africa needs to play similar part. Play a part in mending those. Nigerians call us Akata because we don't know our roots, but it was Nigerians who were the reason for that. Well, you're right. That this is a term that Africans have used for a long time. I personally have talked about this. I have a campaign to desist from using this word. And so thank you, my brother, for sharing it. And I would like to definitely want to bring the show to an end this evening. Brother Jim, again, it was nice having you. Please, please leave us with your last remarks, if you may.
Man, we ain't got time to be, to be playing. There's need for repair. I think the reparation, or the need for repair does need to come from whoever has the juice over with land over in Africa. I think that a lot of us are ready, and when you got both sides like working of the Atlantic, we could start our own thing, man, and start to push back on these other forces, be it European, Middle Eastern, or Asia Pac that are seeking to continue to divide us and to exploit us.
Thank you, Brother Jim, for again coming on the show and sharing your view. This episode titled Response or Reaction to Burna Boy's comment about African Americans have come to an end and we really want to appreciate you all for joining us. Those who chimed in earlier, we want to thank, special thanks goes to Malik Youssef, who was on the show as well. Sister Africa, thank you for helping pull this together. Want to thank everyone, Christina, and everyone that has helped produce this show. Actually, Vic, thank you so much for helping to produce the show as well. The Progressive Mind Show is here every Tuesday from 6 to 8 p.m. Central, Sundays 4 to 6 p.m. Central. Sunday, we'll be talking about Ghana, the current affairs of Ghana, what is going on in Ghana, economics, politics. We'll be discussing that on this platform. This is our community building show where we make sure that we're helping to bridge this gap. And June 24th, we are hosting the exchange ceremony. We're bringing our kings from Ghana to help bridge the gap. Our king has already offered land from in Anglong, the Volta region. King Ahota Maklo, he did that last year when he came to crown Reverend Jesse Jackson as the first king of the African diaspora. We're doing it again this year, 24th of June. He's coming. We're going to be crowning kings. We're going to be making queens. We're going to be restoring the royalty of the African American. And so mark that day, June 24th of this year, the exchange ceremony will be coming your way. Really want to thank everyone again for being a blessing on this show. And I want to say lastly, that this platform since 2017. I've actually done a show and I titled it "What is Not Wrong with Us Africans." I was specific by saying what is not wrong with us. So we are not bad people, but we have some issues like any community. And it looks like every community, be it the Jewish, be it the Irish, be it the Lebanese, Arab, be it the Hispanic, or in European communities, they work on their differences. Actually, they don't see difference. They help each other. They vary together. And so we as Africans or Black people, there is obvious division. There's obvious disconnect. And I think the number one conversation that we all need to be having is why and what are the solutions? Why are we the way we are? And what can we do to improve on ourselves? Because I told a friend this afternoon, if we don't have these conversations and try to fix some of these internal things that we have that destroys us eternally, our children will come to find a messier situation, a messier Black community than we have it now. And so it is our duty as adults, responsible adults, to have this conversation and try to fix and work on our problems for a better future. And that is what we appreciate. That is what we are on. And so no disrespect to nobody, but the hard truth is that there is a mentality within the African community. We bring it here in the diaspora and we react and move with it. And our attitude towards some of our attitude from some Africans towards African Americans is not always positive. We know this, and we have to work internally to correct it. For African Americans, those that have any negative towards Africans, this is a time that you also begin to look within yourselves and see how we're all connected, that we are not the problem. Our ancestors may have done some mistakes or did some mistakes. We are not the problem. We are the answers to the problem, and we have to act as such. On that note, to God be the glory. Remember, to whom much is given, much is required. This has been your host, Senna, aka Alinko. And Jim, thank you once again. We shall be connected. You're welcome. Bye-bye.